Hey guys, Sean here. Today I'll be profiling my new and improved Dino deck. Throughout the past year or so, dinos have been hit a lot on many different ban lists, very indirectly. The deck has went through a lot of changes, but I think this build is pretty damn good. I'm very excited to show it off. So without further ado, let's get right into it. To begin with, we have some very standard stuff here. 3 copies of your Souleating Oviraptor. On summon, it searches any dinosaur monster, or it can even Foolish Burial, which can come up in certain situations. This deck is very vulnerable to Droll, so being able to dump a card like Misk can be very important. Also, you can target a dinosaur monster you control that's level 4 or lower, destroy it, and then special summon a dinosaur monster from your graveyard. Very important for your combos. Most of the time you'll be destroying a Babycerasaurus to bring back a dinosaur monster from your graveyard, and that will trigger the Babycerasaurus to special summon another monster. So your best starter in the deck is also level 4 as well, which is important for your XZs, so definitely max this guy out at 3 copies. Next up, 1 Misk. We would run Misk at as many copies as we could, but in TCG it's at 1. What Misk does is that you can discard it from your hand, and during that main phase, your dinosaur monsters are unaffected by your opponent's card effects. So think Sanguine Summoning, it protects all your monsters during the main phase. Also, whilst in the graveyard, you can banish a number of dinosaur monsters from your graveyard to special summon a dinosaur monster with that level from your deck. Most of the time you'll just be banishing itself to bring out your level 1 Animadorned Archosaur, which is really good. It can be used defensively, it can be used offensively. It's best to use this card as late as you can. Ideally, if you summon something like an Oviraptor, you want to wait until your opponent tries to negate it, and then Chain Mist, because it is a quick effect, and then your opponent will have wasted a hand trap. But sometimes that's not always possible, sometimes you just need to use it. Very vulnerable to cards like Ash. It's probably the deck's main choke point. It's very vital for your combos, the effect where you banish it to special summon. But keep that in mind, it is very essential for the deck. Next up, 1 Kaitoptera. This can be a giant Rex as well, they basically serve the same function. When this card is banished, you can special summon it. It has other effects that don't really come up, we're not running Poly in this build. This card can add you Poly from your deck to your hand, but we don't run Poly. But the main reason you run this card is because when you banish it off of cards like your Double Evolution Pill, you can special summon it back and then you can go into an XYZ. So really important card for the deck. It's pretty much interchangeable with Giant Rex, so run whichever one you feel is better. Next up, 3 copies of your Babycerasaurus, the most important extender in the deck, part of pretty much every combo. When it's destroyed by card effect, you can special summon a level 4 or lower dinosaur monster from your deck. Not once per turn, so you're going to be cycling through this a lot. You're going to be destroying babies constantly to bring out more dinosaur monsters from your deck. We run 3 copies because most of your combos need a baby in hand to be able to work. Oviraptor and babies combo, Ground Xeno and babies combo. So many combos just need babies, so we max it out. You go through so many in a combo as well, so it's really important to have 3 copies. On top of having 2 copies of your Petiteranodon, it is the same as Baby, but it special summons a level 4 or higher dinosaur monster. However, that monster cannot attack, which can come up if you're summoning a big monster like a Pank. That monster won't be able to attack this turn. But you're mainly using this card to summon something like your Xeno Meteorus for your combos that way. So this ratio is pretty standard, 3 Babycerasaurus and 2 Petiteranodon. Next up, 2 copies of your Animadorned Archosaur. On summon, you can destroy a dinosaur monster you control or in your hand, and then you can add a Double Evolution Pill from your deck to your hand. So this is a very important card in your deck. Searching Double Evolution Pill is really important because it's your main way to go into your ultimate Conductor Tyranno, which is your main boss monster of the deck. And the effect to be able to destroy a card on your hand or field is really important, so you can pop cards like your Babycerasaurus in order to special summon more monsters from the deck. It's also level 1, which is very important. You'll be linking this off into cards like your Relinquished Anima, or if you normal summon this, you can go into Almirage, and this helps you get non-dinosaur monsters into rotation so that you can actually use the effect of your Double Evolution Pill. 2 copies is all we need, but definitely run it in the deck. Next up, 2 copies of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, the best boss monster the deck has. You can special summon this card by banishing 2 dinosaur monsters from your graveyard. During the main phase, you can quick effect destroy a card you control or in your hand to flip all your opponent's monsters face down. It can attack all monsters your opponent controls, and if it attacks a defense position monster, you can send it to grave and burn your opponent for 1000. So just a fantastic card in the deck, really good at breaking boards, really helps you go for a game. The cost is a bit tricky sometimes, so that's why Double Evolution Pill is a great way to get him out from your deck. We can boost him up with Dugares in the extra deck as well, for a 7k attack monster who can attack all monsters your opponent controls. Being able to flip all your opponent's monsters face down is a really good disruption for going first. And being able to send your opponent's monsters to grave instead of destroying them can really help avoid certain floating effects during the battle phase. So we definitely run 2 copies of your Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Next up we have Xeno Meteorus and a copy of our Frostosaurus. So what Xeno Meteorus does is that when a card is destroyed on the field, you can special summon it. And while it's on the field, you can destroy a dinosaur monster from your hand or field to special summon Frostosaurus from your deck. This does lock you into dragons, worms, dinos, and sea serpents, which you need to keep in mind. Most of our extra deck is those types, but there are a lot of things you need to do first before using the effect, because you'll be locked out of it otherwise. Bringing out Frostosaurus is really cool because they're both level 6, which helps you Xyz into stuff like Lars, which is one of your best cards in the deck. And Xeno Meteorus is also a tuner, which is really cool because it can help you go into stuff like your Chengying. A really good card in the deck, we can directly search it with Ground Xeno, so definitely run this package right here. For the final two monsters, we have one Pank and one Dogoran. You can search these two cards with your Oviraptor. Pank can just be special summoned if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, and you can quick effect tribute it to destroy a card in the field. So fantastic card in the deck, really good that we can search it. Dogoran is a searchable Kaiju, so if you're against decks that set up towers monsters, you can search Dogoran with your Oviraptor and just Kaiju it away. So I think you should definitely main deck these cards because they're very accessible. And for the monster hand traps, Triple Ash, one of the best hand traps in the game, very versatile, pretty much does something in any matchup, and Triple Effect Veiler, just go to targeting negation. You can swap this with whatever you want, but I think it's a really good hand trap for the deck. Onto the spells now, we have 3 copies of Fossil Dig. Searches you any level 6 or lower dinosaur monster from your deck to your hand. Fantastic card in the deck, just searches anything not once per turn, so if you open multiple copies, you can search 2 or 3 dinosaur monsters, which is great. Searches anything in the deck besides your Pank, your UCT, or your Dogoran, but those can be searched in other ways. Just a fantastic card in the deck, great for consistency, definitely max it out. Next up, 2 Ground Xeno. You don't really need to run more than 2 because you do need a monster in hand to destroy in order for you to be able to combo off with this card. What it does is it lets you add a dinosaur tuner or a normal monster from your deck to your hand and then you destroy one card in your hand. So your only target in this deck is your Xeno Meteorus. You'll be searching it, destroying a card, and then that will be triggering your Xeno Meteorus to special summon itself. And it can also be triggering stuff like a Babycerasaurus to be able to special summon monsters from your deck. It also acts as a poly in grave. You can banish it from the graveyard to fusion summon a dinosaur fusion monster from your extra deck. We do run the Transcendosaurus Gigantozowler, so this card can be very useful in summoning that. So I like to run 2 copies, I think it's pretty good. Next up, 3 copies of your Lost World. I definitely didn't forget to bring this, don't worry about it guys. Lost World is really important in this deck. This deck does not run the Horned Saurus engine, so that's why I want to max this out at 3 copies. You want to see this card in your hand, it is really important. So whilst on the field, all monsters on the field except for dinosaur monsters lose 500 attack. When you summon a dinosaur monster, you can special summon a dinosaur token to your opponent's side of the field. And while they control a token, they cannot target cards on the field except for tokens with card effects. So it's a really good way to floodgate your opponent. Also, while they control the token, they can't activate cards like Evenly Matched, which is really good. And the most important part about this card is that when a normal monster on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy a dinosaur monster from your deck instead. Meaning that if you try to destroy your opponent's token that you give them, you can instead destroy a dinosaur monster from your deck, which can be a Babycerasaurus, in order to special summon more monsters from the deck. So fantastic card in the deck, it's really unique to dinos, it's a floodgate, it's an extender, it's really really good. Next up, 2 copies of your Double Evolution Pill. You will search this off of your Animadorned Archosaur. You can banish a dinosaur monster and a non-dinosaur monster from your hand or grave to special summon a level 7 or higher dinosaur monster from your deck, ignore summoning conditions. This is your main way of getting out your UCT, but I can also summon stuff like your Pank, which can come up. The banishing effect is really important because it lets you banish stuff like your Kaitoptera in order to special summon it again. Keep in mind that you need to be able to banish a non-dinosaur monster. Almost all the main deck cards are dinosaurs, so what you need to do is go into certain linked monsters, get them into grave, and then use this card so you can have a dinosaur and non-dinosaur to banish. It's a bit trickier now since we don't have Link Karibo, because we can't just go Link Karibo into Secure Garden anymore, but the deck can still definitely make use of this card, so definitely run it at 2 copies. Next up, we have 1 copy of our Pop Prosperity because it's newly limited at 1, and 2 copies of our Small World as basically a way to search any monster in the deck. Prosperity getting hit really hurts the deck, it really hurts the consistency, but Small World definitely makes up for that a bit. Prosperity, obviously you banish 3 to 6 cards from your extra deck, you escalate that many cards and you can add 1 from your deck to your hand. Small World is also really good at improving consistency. It lets you banish a monster from your hand, then you banish a monster from your deck with 1 of the same type, attribute, level, attack or defense as the monster you banish from your hand. And you can add a monster from your deck with exactly one of the same type, level, attribute, attack or defense from your deck to your hand. Essentially, Small World is a bridge to any dinosaur monster in your deck. All your dinosaur monsters really only have one thing in common, and that is that they are dinosaur monsters. They all have different attributes, they all have different levels, they all have different attack and defense. So pretty much, Lost World will be able to get you any card in the deck that you want. Even easier with certain hand traps as well. So while it might be confusing to understand, it pretty much is a really good card in the deck for getting you the missing piece to your combos. So definitely run this little ratio right here. And for the final spell, we run a copy of Call By. It's just really important to not get ashed in this deck. The deck really relies on 2-card combos, so it's a lot more fragile than most decks. So a card like Call By can be really helpful in stopping a hand trap and being able to go full combo. And finally for the main deck, triple Imperm, just another good hand trap. So in total we run 9 hand traps in the main. We run triple Ash, triple Veiler, and triple Imperm. You can change what hand traps you run, you can change the ratios, you can change all that, but I think this is pretty good for this deck. On to the extra deck now, we have one copy of our Transcendosaurus Gigantozowler. It is a 3800 attack monster. You summon it using a dinosaur monster and a normal monster. On summon, you can add back a dinosaur monster from your grave to your hand. And if this card was special summoned from your graveyard, you can destroy 2 monsters, one from your hand and one on the field. Also, if this card is destroyed, you can shuffle in a normal monster from your grave to your deck to special summon it. So that's the main way you're going to be using the first effect to pop cards. We don't run Poly, so the only way to summon him is to use our Ground Xeno's graveyard effect, where you banish it to fusion summon. A really cool boss monster, he's really big, puts a lot of pressure on your opponent, can get your resources back from the grave, so if you haven't banished your Mist, you can add it back. And being able to destroy a card from your hand and on your opponent's field is really good because you can get rid of an opponent's problematic card, and you can also pop something like a baby to extend your combos. So I like to run the one copy of Gigantozowler. Onto the Evolzar stuff here, we have 1 Lars, 1 Dolkka, and 1 Laggia. Pretty standard for Dino decks. Lars is definitely your best one. It needs 2 level 6s, so you'll be using your Xeno Meteorus and your Frostosaurus to summon this. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can detach material, target 1 card in the field, and negate its effects. This is not once per turn, and since you're using dinosaur monsters as material, you can use this card twice in a turn to negate 2 cards on the field, which is really good. It's a really good form of negation because it's a targeting negate, so it's similar to cards like Hot Rod Dragon Archfiend Abyss, where you can just target a card in the field and negate its effects. And being able to use it twice in a turn is fantastic. Dolkka needs 2 level 4s, and is a monster negate. When your opponent activates a monster effect, detach a material, negate the effect and destroy it. And again, it's not once per turn, so you can use this twice in a turn. And Laggia is basically a Solemn Judgment. When your opponent will activate a spell or trap, or summon a monster, you can detach 2 material to negate the activation and destroy the card. Really good lineup here of Evolzar cards, so definitely run these cards. For more XZs, we just have some generic level 4s. We have a Bagooska, we have an Abyss Dweller, and we have a Dugares. Bagooska is really good if we get interrupted. If we can go into this, we can definitely live a few turns. A really good Floodgate. While it's in defense, it changes all monsters on the field to defense, and it negates the activated effects of monsters on the field who are in defense position when the effect was activated. So a really good Floodgate. Abyss Dweller, another really good Floodgate. You can detach the material, and then for the rest of the turn, your opponent can activate card effects in the graveyard, which is really good against graveyard focused decks. And Dugares' main function is you detach the material, target a card you control, and you double its attack until the end of the turn. Really good for going for OTKs, really good at being able to boost up your UCT to 7000 attack. It can also special summon a monster back from the graveyard, or it can draw 2, discard 1. It's really cool that it's very versatile. If you need to draw more cards, you can do that. If you need to special summon a card from the grave, you can do that as well. A fantastic card in the deck. I'm very happy with this XZ's ratio right here. Next up, one copy of your Swordsoul Chengying. It is a generic Synchro 10, which we can make using any level 4 and our Xeno Meteorus. It's also a worm, so you won't get locked out of it when you activate Xeno Meteorus. It gains 100 attack and defense for every card banished. Dinosaur is banished a lot, so you can get this card up pretty high. Also, when a card is banished, you can non-target banish a card from your opponent's field and grave, which is a really fantastic form of removal. You can get rid of important cards in your opponent's graveyard and on their field without targeting, which is really good. And also, if this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish a card from your grave instead. So fantastic card in the deck, really good level 10 synchro, so definitely run it in the deck. Finally, onto the links here, we have one copy of our Relinquished Anima, the main replacement for Link Karibo since that card's been banned. It needs one level 1 monster, so you're going to be using your Animadorned Archosaur to link off into this. And then if you link this card off, you'll have a spellcaster engrave, so you can use your double evolution pill, banish Anima and a dinosaur monster to special summon any card from your deck. But Anima is actually really cool in this deck since we run a Kaiju in the main deck. So if we Kaiju our opponent's monster, we can put it in the Anima zone, link it to Anima, take the Kaiju, and we've removed the Kaiju and given our Anima 3k attack, which is really, really cool. Also, your opponent might just play into this, which can be really handy. So a vital card for your combos, you definitely need to run this card at 1. Next up, we have 1 Salman Great Almirage in combination with 1 Secure Gardena. We run this so that if we only have our Animadorned Archosaur in hand, we can normal summon it, get our search, link it off into Almirage, link Almirage off into Secure Gardena, and then have 2 cards in the grave to be able to use our double evolution pill. Doesn't come up all the time because it needs to send a normal summon monster, and most of the time you'll be using your normal summon on something like an Oviraptor, but it can come up. Sometimes you just have an Archosaur, so being able to link it off is really important. And you can even normal summon a baby and link it off if you really need that card engraved. So this little package is important to run, so I think you should definitely run it. Next up, 1 Reprodocus. You really don't need to worry about its effect. The main purpose is that it's a generic link to, and it's a dinosaur. So if you need to use your Xeno Meteorus early in your combo, you still have a generic dinosaur monster to link off into to get certain cards engraved, so that you can use your double evolution pill. So 1 copy is very important. And to round the deck out, we have 1 SP, 1 Unicorn, and 1 Accesscode. SP is just a fantastic card, one of the best cards in the game. A generic link to, if it's summoned using an extra monster, such as your Relinquished Anima, you can banish any card on the field or in your opponent's graveyard. And when your opponent activates an effect, you can target 1 monster you control and 1 monster on the field, and then banish both of them until the end of the turn. So this has a lot of useful applications. You can banish an opponent's problematic monster, or if your opponent tried to imperm you or effect value you, you could target that monster being impermed, banish it, and then the effect won't be negated. So a very important card. We can use this to climb up into our Unicorn. On summon, Unicorn will discard a card, and then you can bounce any card on the field to the deck, which is a really good form of removal. And it helps you link climb into your Accesscode. We all know Accesscode. Great for gaining a bunch of attack, great for popping a lot of cards. A really good board breaker, really good card for going second and for going for game. So I think this generic link package is really important. So that's it for my updated dinosaur deck profile. Overall, I really love dinosaurs. I think it's a really, really fun deck. Even though it's lost so much over the last few ban lists, it's still a really strong deck, still so versatile in how you play it. With cards like Ground Xeno getting reprinted, it's just a really kind of budget deck to play now. Really fun, can definitely take games. I definitely see it as a good rogue deck in the format. So thanks for watching, let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to see our videos early, we do have memberships, so make sure you check that out. And if you're looking to build this deck or any deck in real life, we have a TCG Player affiliate link in the description, which you can check out. It directly supports the channel and helps us make really good content.